Now on BBC One, tonight's edition of South Today with Bruce Parker and Sally Taylor.
Glass found in Heinz baby food starts a nationwide scare.
Caught in the act, council spy cameras spot illegal tippers.
John Brown's privacy bill. Is the government trying to stop it?
Good evening. Thousands of jars of Heinz baby food have been withdrawn from sale in shops across the south after a Southampton mother found glass in a dessert she was feeding her baby son. After laboratory checks, Heinz say the glass did not get into the jar at their factory and are urging customers to check the sealed lids on their baby foods. Lisa Olsen reports.
7.5-month-old Andrew Gibson has been declared fit and well after x-rays and a thorough check-up at Southampton General Hospital. His mother feared he'd swallowed glass as he appeared to start choking last night as she fed him from a jar of Heinz pear dessert.
I had to get a spoonful and there's glass on the actual spoon.
How big was the piece of glass? What did it
Well,
look like?
it was about that big, and another piece beside it. So I put it all back in the jar and I phoned the hospital, which they told me to bring them straight up.
On closer examination, staff at Southampton General Hospital found several pieces of glass in the jar. Mrs. Gibson had bought the pear dessert at this Circle K store in West End Road. The shelves were cleared of all flavours of dessert, not just here, but at Circle K's 240 stores across the south and in London.
As a company, we're concerned, which is why we've taken it off sale. But as I say, it is in the hands of Heinz at the moment, who are carrying out their investigations.
90 million jars of Heinz baby food roll off the production line at Wigan each year. Heinz at first thought the glass may have got into the jar during the manufacturing process. 1,000,000 to 1 chance, they say. But now, after laboratory tests of the jar, they say the broken glass did not match the glass they used in the manufacturing process. Therefore, they say the jar was contaminated. As far as they're concerned, it left their factory in perfect condition. Heinz are now urging all buyers of their baby food to check the safety seal on the cap. They're vacuum sealed, and a broken seal makes the lid pop when pressed. Despite Heinz's suggestion that the glass entered the jar after it left them, Andrew Gibson's mother insists the jar containing broken glass was sealed properly before she opened it.
Because otherwise I wouldn't have used it on the baby.
Heinz are now saying that all mothers should obviously check the seals on
Yeah, but I won't have to check no more because I won't be buying it anymore. I won't be buying any Heinz product again. So it's all about because his life is in danger as far as I'm concerned.
To Parliament now, where the Conservative MP for Winchester, John Brown, says he's now convinced the government is determined to kill his protection of privacy bill. The bill is supported by members of all parties in the Commons, and today the bill entered its committee stage. Usually the government stays neutral on private members' bills, but Mr. Brown believes the Home Office may be fighting shy of his proposals in case they offend Mr. Rupert Murdoch, the owner of several national newspapers, Sky TV, and one of Mrs. Thatcher's most important allies in the media.
John Brown's bill seeks to strike a balance between the right to privacy and the right to freedom of speech. It proposes a new crime of breaching privacy, that is, revealing private communications, personal relationships, behaviour, health or financial affairs, and any activity within the home. The press will be able to claim public interest as a defence, and if in doubt, the courts will be obliged to find in favour of publication. The bill was unopposed at second reading. 16 out of the 18 MPs on the cross-party bill committee want to see it go through, and they're prepared to sit through the night if necessary to make sure it does. Ironically enough, the only dissenting backbencher is the Labour MP for Glasgow Hillhead, George Galloway, whose extramarital relationships have made him a favourite target of the tabloids. This morning, the only other person to talk against the bill in the committee was the Home Office Minister, Tim Renton.
We are a deregulatory government. Do we really want to get the courts deciding about the content of the newspapers? We want to put all sorts of statutory controls on the press. I think that's a very major step to take.
It raises a question mark as to whether the Home Office are really obeying the government's position of being strictly neutral. I think it's a rather pessimistic sign from the government's point of view, and this is really beginning to develop into the people, with Parliament representing them through the back benches, struggling against the Home Office and the government, but the Home Office in particular. So it's the people and Parliament back benches against the Home Office's struggle, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it develops.
It was hinted in the committee this morning that the papers that are most intrusive into people's privacy, namely the Murdoch papers, are also those that support the Conservative Party. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Well, I mean, it's said that is true, and I've no reason, really, no evidence to doubt it. I suppose that is true. He's a very powerful man. And, of course, Mr. Murdoch is the hero of the Wapping printers dispute.
Mr. Renton denies both allegations, but he admits the government would prefer to launch a press bill of its own in a couple of years' time if the Press Council can't curb intrusive reporting in the meantime.
So, John Brown at odds with his own party.
Still to come tonight, Wiltshire police prepare for another battle of the Stones.
The former likely lad, James Bolam, prepares for victory as Napoleon at the Chichester Festival.
And if your satellite TV reception is rubbish, try a dustbin lid instead. The time is 6:38.
Good evening. Tonight's news from around the region. A workman was killed and two of his colleagues seriously injured when a painter's cradle collapsed 4 floors up on the side of a building at Hove in East Sussex this afternoon. A fourth man managed to hold on to ropes when the scaffolding fell and he was rescued. The accident happened at the Courtney Terrace on Hove seafront. The injured men were taken to the Royal Sussex County Hospital at Brighton. Health and safety inspectors are at the site investigating the accident. 2 firemen were taken to hospital after being overcome by smoke while fighting a fire at Rockley in Hampshire. The fire was in a building housing a 1,000-gallon tank of diesel oil and a number of oxygen cylinders. It's thought some of the cylinders may have exploded. The fire is now out and 2 firemen have been released from hospital. A former Hampshire police officer has been awarded more than £250,000 in damages following a road accident in which he was knocked from a police motorbike. David Hubbold still suffers from amnesia and has difficulty concentrating 5 years after the crash. A Home Office pathologist is today carrying out more tests on the body of Leslie McClellan, the Worthing woman found murdered at her home at the weekend. She had been dead for 2 weeks. 40 police officers are working on the case and forensic experts are continuing a detailed examination of the flat in Harefield Road. Princess Margaret has been in Portsmouth today visiting HMS Illustrious. She arrived at the aircraft carrier's flight deck in a helicopter of the Royal Flight and later attended a service of Thanksgiving on board, marking the end of the vessel's first commission. Princess Margaret launched HMS Illustrious in December 1978 and since then has maintained a close personal interest in the fortunes of the warship. A man who escaped from police while on the way to Winchester Prison has spent an hour and a half on the roof of a house in Portsmouth. The man, who was on remand, broke free outside the police station and climbed onto the roof of a house in Waterloo Street. He came down peacefully and has been now taken to Winchester. 2 Hampshire men are still on course for victory in South America in one of the world's toughest motorsport events, the Camel Trophy.
With 1 day's competition left in the event, which is a 1,000-mile endurance rally through the Amazon forest, farmers Bob and Joe Ives hold joint first place. They lost their overall lead when their turbo diesel Land Rover sucked fast in a river on the most recent stage. But with 4 more special stages to go tomorrow, the brothers are confident they can pull clear of the opposition once again.
Now, football news. The Bournemouth striker David Puckett has agreed to join 3rd Division Aldershot for a fee of £10,000. Puckett has scored 10 goals for Aldershot since joining them on loan from Dean Court. And Alan Ball is to team up again with his former manager at Southampton, Laurie McMenemy. McMenemy is to manage the Football League's under-18 side to visit Russia next week. He's asked Ball, who is coaching at Colchester after his sacking as Portsmouth manager, to help out on the trip. That's all from me for the moment. Now, back to Sally.
A revolutionary nuclear power station could soon be built in the south. It's likely Britain and the United States will construct and develop the world's first so-called space integral reactor at the Windthorpe Atomic Energy Establishment in Dorset. Windthorpe's new director says more nuclear power would help to reduce the impact of the greenhouse effect. That's the global warming caused by burning oil and coal that could lead to dangerous rises in sea levels.
Within a stone's throw of the breeding grounds of the smooth snake and Dartford warbler, scientists are busy designing the nuclear power stations of the future. privatisation of electricity generation and distribution is just around the corner. So the nuclear industry has to convince potential investors it can produce power cheaply and safely. Accidents like the ones at 3 Mile Island in the United States and at Chernobyl in the Soviet Union provided anti-nuclear campaigners with enough ammunition to last a lifetime. The job security of Windthrift's 1,800 staff will depend on the new privatised electricity companies investing in nuclear research and development. The new director of Windthrift, Dr. Derek Pooley, is the first to admit that there have been mistakes in the past.
We have to work to win the public's confidence back. I think what is in our favour at the moment is their realisation that our competitors are not perfect either. They hear a lot about the greenhouse effect, about the Exxon Valdez accident in Alaska and so on. All of us have to work to make sure that we don't have major incidents and that we don't pollute the environment in an unacceptable way.
Dr. Pooley is convinced producing electricity in nuclear power stations will be better for the Earth's environment in the long run.
I think the public's perception of nuclear power is probably improving because there have been so many reports recently about the damage which fossil fuel burning can do. The greenhouse effect changing the climate, the damage to forests caused by motor car exhaust in Europe, the damage to lakes in Scandinavia from acid rain and so on.
A new type of reactor could be built and tested at Windthrift. The safe integral reactor could help meet Britain's energy needs at the turn of the century.
We're very excited about this possibility because we think the public is looking for power stations in smaller sizes. The industry is actually very interested in smaller sized power stations. And we believe the time has come for nuclear power in particular to build on all the lessons that it has learned over the last 20 years and come up with a new design. And that's what our Safe Integral Reactor, as it's called, SIR, does.
Windthrift staff have worked in the shadow of the world's only steam-generating heavy water reactor for 20 years. Built as an experiment, it's still pumping power into the national grid. Windthrift's managers are convinced they'll get the backing of people in Dorset to build the first of a new generation of nuclear power stations.
So possible future new developments at Windthrift. Over now to West Sussex, where a new weapon has been introduced in the fight against illegal rubbish dumpers. Secret cameras are roaming several sites, and anybody captured on film faces prosecution. James Trollope reports.
Traditional methods of discouraging fly tipping don't always work. So in West Sussex, they've decided to try something new. Tippers may ignore the signs, but the secret camera won't ignore the tippers. Back at the office, waste disposal engineers study the results of 8 hours filming.
He's been here before, hasn't he? The site not 5 miles away and it's open 364 days a year, which will take this quite easy. This is the sort of thing that's costing us £400–500 a ton to clear as well.
In West Sussex, the county council disposes of more than 100,000 tonnes of rubbish every year. But increasingly, people are ignoring authorised tips, like this one in Chichester, and dumping their rubbish maybe just a few miles away.
They're too idle to go to a proper site, which is only another 5 or 6 miles away. I wish we could understand what the motives are.
Now, how successful do you think this secret filming is going to be in combating the problem?
Well, I hope at least the people that we show will have some sort of conscience and not come back again, and maybe more people will realise that they can't get away with it further.
This video has already been passed on to the police. At least one prosecution is likely, with the offender facing a fine of up to £1,000. During the 8 hours of secret filming, there were 9 cases of illegal dumping, with one man shedding 3 van loads. But with the hidden cameras now out and about, the county council hopes that the dumpers will soon lose heart. James Trollope, BBC South Today, on the outskirts of Chichester.
Wiltshire police say they're preparing for the worst at Stonehenge this summer.
The so-called travellers have already been warned to stay away from the monument on Salisbury Plain during the solstice. The police have been outlining their plans for a peaceful solstice, but they admit they're expecting trouble. This report from Lucy Artis. Stonehenge 88, the culmination of a summer of violent skirmishes. Wiltshire police are determined it won't happen again this year. Today they repeated their public warning to the travellers. The stones will be closed. There'll be no site for a festival.
What I have to say is this: those who do come are likely to find themselves on the wrong side of the law, and that will take or require positive police action to deal with it. It's preferable they don't come for those very reasons.
They've already said that they do still want to come. Aren't you in danger of just a series of skirmishes across the county?
Well, there are all sorts of scenarios you could paint. What we're hoping is that the reasonable, sensible people who listen to that message simply will think better of it and not come.
The police admit their warnings may fall on deaf ears, so they're adopting a policy of preparing for the worst. All police leave will be cancelled in the run-up to the solstice, and reinforcements will be standing by in neighbouring counties. Helicopters will be used to track the travellers. Their movements will be monitored by a computerised intelligence unit. But at their Wiltshire headquarters today, the police and English Heritage denied this year's high-profile policy runs the risk of provoking the confrontation they're seeking to avoid.
The last thing we want is another confrontation, and that's the reason that we're adopting the strategy we are this year. I think you'll have seen what happened last year, and there was violence last year, and we certainly don't want a repeat of that.
All English Heritage have said on police advice is that Stonehenge itself will be shut for the 24 hours around the solstice. I think that given the events of last year, that's the only responsible thing that we could have done.
The police know that even the strongest warnings are unlikely to keep all the travellers away. The result is inevitable, an expensive police operation with the ratepayers footing the bill. Lucy Artis, BBC South, Wiltshire.
Well now, a vast rank of actors is now preparing for the production of Victory in Chichester. It's likely to be the Festival Theatre's most ambitious project yet. It's a drama based on an epic poem by Thomas Hardy on the Napoleonic Wars. The cast of 30 will be swelled by 100 local volunteers who will use not just the theatre, but much of the city as their stage. Caroline Hall has been to meet two people on the front line of Victory, Napoleon and his director.
James Bolam will be the only familiar face in a cast of relative unknowns. Director Patrick Garland has deliberately avoided bringing in stars for Victory, which is very much a personal project. It was he who bravely took on the task of cutting Hardy's original epic poem down to size.
I don't think anybody would thank me if we'd have done the original. It would last about 11 hours, and it's huge speeches that take place in Parliament and all over the place, and you get the Peninsular Wars, the Viennese Wars, the Russian campaign. I mean, every detail. If you miss the Napoleonic Wars, read Thomas Hardy's The Dynasts, and he'll recount it to you. But we've reduced it to a couple of hours.
It's still going to be an epic in terms of the Festival Theatre, isn't it? I mean, you've got scenes here at the Cathedral, you've got scenes back at the theatre. Is logistics your biggest problem?
Yes, it is. If I may quote myself, I hope not too pompously, I have been saying I want this to be epic in scale, but not epic in length. And it does take place, the coronation of Napoleon at the Cathedral. It then brings the audience through the streets. Rumours of war take them through West Street and then up North Street, with bands playing, and then into the theatre for the main drama, which is, if you like, the rise and fall of Napoleon.
It's trying to create this epic, and it's almost, some of the script is almost filmic in terms of the scenes are very short and sharp and concentrated, and the problem is there, is to try and get what you can from the character, but there isn't time to develop and explore it. You have to make a broad statement.
What sort of Napoleon has Hardy created?
Well, I suppose Patrick said that. I mean, what we've got is just this sort of some little extracts from this enormous epic that he wrote. I think one is trying to see a great deal of aspects of him. I mean, he was a man of great power, of great charisma. That would be one of my biggest problems. But also a man of great determination, a temper, but at all times a man with a vision and a belief that it's not just him, but there are powers beyond him which drive him on. And I think, like all megalomania, I may say, a total conviction and belief that what he's doing is right, and he's not doing it, he's doing it for France.
In just over a fortnight, weather permitting, Patrick Garland and his mammoth cast will be doing it for Chichester. It'll be a personal victory for the director, newly elevated, as one paper would have us believe, to the rank of general.
I see myself rather as Marshal Soult to my co-director, Francis Matthews, Marshal Ney, to his Emperor Napoleon, if you like. But it is rather a question of logistics. We were trying to get all the cavalcaders, as we call them, all the good people of Chichester, simply 50 of them to cross the stage from one side to the other, a distance of about 20 yards, and it took us a whole morning to get it done properly in the retreat from Moscow scene. So Francis said to me, I realised now why Napoleon deserted his army and let 600,000 men march all the way to Paris.
Patrick Garland and his production sounds wonderful.
Ambitious project.
Whole of the city seems to be involved.
Lovely.
Talking about Napoleon, we need to Wellington Bridge today, didn't we? Lots of showers.
There were lots of showers. Not on the coast. The Isle of Wight actually had a lovely day today.
Thank you, I didn't go there.
No. Never mind.
I didn't go to Kent either.
You didn't go to Kent either. Well, there were some showers about, quite a lot of heavy ones this afternoon, even some thunderstorms that broke out over the Salisbury Plain and drifted up towards Berkshire. So there were quite a few heavy showers around, and those showers are going to continue, really, for the next 2 or 3 days. It really is an April shower situation just at the moment. The showers that we have around at the moment are going to die out really overnight, and you can see there 1 or 2 continuing, mostly along the coast and up in the north there where you've still got the showers that you've had this afternoon. Elsewhere some clear spells, so temperatures again dropping quite nicely, but never too low, down to about 4 degrees Celsius up in the north and west of the area by the end of the night, but generally elsewhere around 5 or 6, so still very mild for the time of year. Tomorrow, well, really a repeat of today. Quite a bright start in most places, although there will still be 1 or 2 showers around left over from tonight. And through the morning, we'll find the cloud building up once again, and by the afternoon, again, quite a lot of showers around. Some heavy ones in the afternoon, possibly even an odd clap of thunder once again, but in between, some quite nice sunny spells as well. Temperatures similar to those of today, 12 or 13 degrees Celsius, that's the mid-50s Fahrenheit, and about average for the time of year, so we're really doing quite nicely. No winds on the charts for tonight, because they really are going to be very light in the next 24 hours, almost from any direction at all, and probably falling calm tonight. There's a summary, a few showers tonight, and sunshine and showers again tomorrow.
Thank you, Helen. Back with your Wellington Bridge tomorrow. Now, I'm told that houses in the Andover area are being changed over to those wheelie bins, and there's a quandary in many homes as to what to do with the old dustbin. Well, Stan Bacon has an answer to that. He's turned his dustbin into a satellite television receiver, or at least a lid.
Stan doesn't get to watch many programmes, so he sees plenty of televisions. He installs satellite dishes around the Hampshire town of Andover. But when he read an April Fool story about picking up the extraterrestrial channels on a dustbin lid, he didn't think the idea was quite so daft.
It did start off as a bit of a joke, but it turned out rather well. How long did it take you to get working? I suppose we thought about it for about a week, but actually from start to finish it was about 6 hours, and we had an absolutely perfect picture. What took so long? The satellite is 36,000 kilometres away from here. 0.1 of a degree out of position on the Earth makes you 250 miles away from the satellite.
The standard satellite dish is 60 centimetres, about 2 feet across. The bin lid is only 2/3 that size.
Where did you get it from? Actually, my brother Les stole it from our dad. So, the pink dustbin lid, but... What are you going to do if your dad wants satellite TV? We've offered him the dustbin lid back, actually.
It's now the world's most famous dustbin lid. As well as a mention in most of the national newspapers this morning, Stan was being interviewed over the telephone at the crack of dawn for New Zealand and Australian radio.
I think if people see a dustbin lid receiving satellite TV, then they're going to accept that the thing's nothing to be frightened of. There's no worry about the technology. That really brings it down to earth.
Of course, you do need just a bit more than a dustbin lid to pick up satellite television. You need about 200 pounds worth of electronics as well to pick up the signal. To line it up, you need some sophisticated equipment too, and a lot of patience. I think I'll stick to good old BBC One.
You put a dustbin in your garden, you know what we're getting it, don't you? Right, let's finish now with the main news headlines. A woman has been killed and more than 30 people injured in a